everyone. Welcome to our June webinar. My name is Justine Chappell. I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for ZAPP. In today's webinar, I'm going to share the most common mistakes we see when events renew their application for the next year. We know some shows are getting ready to set up next year's events, particularly the ones in Florida and California that will have some events early next year. So we want to make sure we show you what to avoid and what to pay attention to as you refresh your application with ZAPP. Before we jump into the actual 8 common mistakes, I did want to start off by talking about how to renew your application in ZAPP and kind of some steps there. So when you renew your ZAPP account, there's a number of ways that you can initiate the renewal of your license. First, either the ZAPP team will contact you once your previous event ends or when your renewal is set to expire soon. And then all you have to do is review that information in the email that we send you and let the team know that you're ready to sign next year's contract. You could also initiate the renewal process yourself by contacting us, either using one of the contact forms on our help center or in the account here in ZAPP. You can go to the ticket tab and just let us know that you're ready to renew for your next event so that you can start setting it up. You can also email us at zaphelp@weststaff.org. And there's also a way, if you are the account manager for ZAPP, you can go into the organization details, which we'll be talking about in a second here. And under the contract history section, you can actually click request renewal. What that does is send a kind of a generic email to our team saying, hey, this account is ready to renew their license. So number of ways that you can renew your account. But once you do sign the renewal contract and get everything set up, the ZAPP team will copy your application or copy your event from last year, from the current year, into next year's. And what we're going to be talking about today is once that event is copied over, you'll want to make sure you do things and make sure it's set up for the next year's application. So that's just a quick intro about renewing the license itself. And then throughout the webinar, we'll talk about how to, renew or rejuvenate your application for next year. So as soon as you're ready to renew, you can do that because you can renew as soon as your, current event is done. So feel free to do it as soon as you'd like. The first kind of common mistake we see, or that I'd like to remind everyone about, is forgetting to update your contact and billing information. So when you renew your account, this is your chance to make sure your contact and billing information is up to date. Not only does this ensure the ZAPP team has the right info on file so that we can contact you, but it also helps to make sure that all of your revenue is remitted to the right place. So again, if you're the account manager, or if you're not, you should get the account manager and have them go to the, once you're logged into ZAPP, go to profile and then click on organization details. This takes you to the page we're looking at now. So you'll want to review the contact information and the billing information. Some of it might be different or it might be the same. So just make sure that the billing address, most importantly, is the one that's updated so that any checks we send to you are sent to the right place, and that we also have the updated billing contact in case we have any financial questions our team needs to reach out to you about. We can contact the right person. I also want to point out here, we have kind of a new field that I'd like everyone to pay attention to. So in our recent release of updates, we added this organization type field to the contact information section. And we have a list of various, types of organizations that you might that might identify your organization. And we just ask that you come in here and you identify which organization type yours falls under. You can select multiple, and if you wanted to select multiple, you can click on one and then either use Command or Shift to select multiple organization types. But I ask that everyone goes in here, every account manager, and identify their organization type just so that we can keep track of the kinds of organizations that are using ZAPP and better understand those so that we can make updates that best reflect the needs of the organizations that use the platform. So that's just my one little shout out there for that new type. So once you click the organization type, go ahead and click save so that it saves in there and that your organization is updated. And once you reviewed the billing contact information and everything there, you should be good to go. Make sure you're clicking save for any changes that are made. And then I do want to mention too that if you take a look at your contract history, you can see whether or not you're enrolled in electronic funds transfer or EFT. If you are enrolled, this means that your remittances, the money that we remit to you, is going to be sent electronically to your bank account. If you're not enrolled, that means we'll send you a paper check. So just a shout out here as well to make sure that if you want to be enrolled in EFT, that you contact the ZAPP team, and we'll have a form for you to fill out so that you can enroll in EFT and get those payments electronically. It's a little bit better and allows you to get the funds a little bit faster. So I highly recommend that if you're not already enrolled and you are able to. And finally, if you are, getting ready for next year's events, the account manager can come to the account users page of the profile as well and review who has access to your ZAPP events and who has an admin account or an administrator account to log in and edit your events. So if you go to the account users, it defaults to show all, which is including jurors and adjudicators if you're using onsite. But if you click on admin users, you'll be able to see, in my case, I only have myself. But if you want to add an administrator that can access the events and update the event information, review applications from this side, do all the same stuff that you can do with the exception of viewing all of these account users and organization details, you can add a new user. Every account can have up to 4 administrator accounts in addition to the account manager. So you can go in here and add up to 4 additional users so that they get access and can help you out a little bit on the ZAPP side of things. So if you need to add folks, you can add them. If you need to remove folks that maybe were working with you this year but won't be working with you next year, you can let's say this was an admin account, you can click view and you would just change their status to inactive if they don't need to be, if they don't need access to ZAPP anymore, and that would free up one of your allotted slots. So make sure you review that and you'll have everyone get access to the account. So that's our first kind of reminder for everyone to go in and update your billing and contact information. The next common mistake, and I would say this is probably the most common mistake we see, is events not updating the event dates in ZAPP. So now is when we're going to start talking about updating the event itself and the application. So let's go into our events management page and I'll pull up the event we're using. Just to kind of set the scene a little bit for our demo purposes, under the archived events, we had this, the 2024 event that took place. And what I did is I acted like a ZAPP staff member renewing the account and copying it over for the new year. So I've taken that event, copied it, and now we have this new one, ZAPP Webinar Demo 2025, and it's going to be updated just as it would be when it's copied over for any other event. So when your event gets copied, let's go into the editor here. The first thing you'll want to do is make sure all the dates are updated. When the event is copied, the dates themselves, let's go down to a few of them here, they will be updated automatically to the next year. So all dates listed 2024 will become 2025, etc. But the months and the dates themselves won't actually update. So that's your responsibility to come in here and make sure that the specific days are actually updated. So I'm going to kind of talk about every single date that you could possibly have in this ZAPP editor here and remind you to update that. So when you come to the event editor, starting in the event information tab, first, make sure you check your event name. It should be updated by the ZAPP staff member who copied the event itself. They usually just update the year, but double check that. Then, of course, in the list of dates here, we've got the accept applications date, the deadline date, your jury dates, notification, all that stuff. This is pretty self-explanatory. So just make sure those are set up perfectly or set up for the next year because they might not mirror last year's. For example, here, I noticed a little error here in 2024. That should be 2025. So I'm going to, make sure when I get in here, I update it to a 2025 date, whatever that may be. So I'm not going to actually change anything on these, but just make sure you go through those. I also want to call out the event dates. As soon as your event is published, you will not be able to change your event start and end dates. So, again, just make sure that's updated. Now, moving on to things that won't be updated automatically, you'll want to make sure you really comb through all of your event summary, general information, all these sections on this event editor to make sure any text that's noting your event date is updated to the correct year. So come in here and change the text itself to the correct dates. Maybe these dates might move a little bit, the dates themselves, and you'll want to adjust those. Same thing with anywhere that you might have listed your timeline in your general information. You might want to, update those to, reflect the new ones. Again, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me update all of these, but you'll just want to make sure that you're coming through these pretty well so that you can see so that they're updated and artists don't get confused. Same thing with rules and regulations, booth information. We'll talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff, but right now we're just looking for dates. So just be, looking out for all those dates. Save each tab as you go along. The jury details shouldn't have any dates on them, but if you do, make sure you're updating those. The jury details page doesn't actually get copied over from your last event, so you'll have to just enter new information anyway. In the application editor, take a look at your questions. You can actually just go ahead and click Preview Artist Application, and that will take you to the application side. So you can see all your questions at once and be able to see if you've maybe listed a date in a specific question. Maybe you said, I acknowledge that, I will be there on this date and this time for something, or, maybe you have something mentioned. So just comb through the application as you would the event itself. The product editor, the most important thing I want to note here is the early bird and late fee fees. If you have them turned on, you'll want to come in here and make sure that those dates are adjusted as well to fit your next year's timeline. So just review those. That can often get missed because they're kind of hidden, but if you have an early bird or late fee, you'll want to make sure you review those there. And then just kind of moving along, if you use booth requests, if you have the booth request add-on from ZAPP, you can also, review the dates there. Same thing with gallery details, although that should just have your normal event start and end dates as you have it on the event information tab. Again, just make sure anything that's listed here in the summary itself is updated. And then finally, you can go to the coupons manager, so events under coupons. Again, these won't actually copy over from last year's event, so you don't have to make sure you're updating dates, but you'll want to make sure you're copying those over with the correct, expiration dates or start dates for any of the coupons that you've had. If you don't know what coupons you had last year and you want to make sure you're doing the same, you can just access the archived event here and be able to reference the ones that you used it last year and set them up for next year. So that's all the touch points that I could gather for when you're updating your event and making sure all those dates are updated. Oops, we're in the archived one. Let's go to the current one. So just be diligent and check everything and make sure those are all updated. If you're sending an e-blast out, or if you're doing any kind of promotion, or if artists are reviewing your information, you don't want anything to be incorrect, obviously, because you don't want any confusion. So be sure those are updated. The next mistake that we have is leaving your event summary, general info, and application questions the same every year. I know it's pretty easy to just kind of have things copy over and leave them as is, but I just want to share a few reminders for what you can do to kind of refresh your information year over year to kind of help encourage artists to apply to the next year. So just spend some extra time going through your event information section and making sure everything is not only correct so that it matches any differences you have year over year, but that everything is kind of improved a little bit, and maybe there's some things that didn't work last year that you want to update, or maybe there's some extra, pizzazz you want to add to this next year's event. I think it kind of goes a long way when artists see that you're not just regurgitating the same information. So take a look and see what you can update, just reword. Maybe in your event summary or general information, you want to include some more things to entice artists to apply. So you can add, testimonials from past exhibiting artists. Maybe you want to share some stats from the previous year's event, whether that be, attendance records or sales or anything like that, that might encourage artists. So you can add those in there. And if you already have them, I recommend, refreshing them for the next year. So just make sure you, again, look through all the information and see what you can add. Maybe there's information that was missing that artists got confused about, some frequently asked questions, those kinds of things. You can make sure that you come in here and add those in so that artists have them for the next application. This goes for basically every box of information on this page. Just make sure everything is updated. Some things like refund policies and legal agreements might not need to be updated as much. But if there's anything you do need to make changes about, make sure that those are submitted and changed in here. And if it's been a while since you've renewed your application, I think it was just about a year ago that we did this, we actually have separated the refund policy field from the legal agreement to make sure that every event has a refund policy that artists can reference. So if you are one of these events that did not see the new one last year and your event is now copied for this year, this might be in there with a blank text box. So make sure you add that and have it saved so that you can have everything completed. Okay, so, refresh everything on the event information page. Same thing with jury details, like I mentioned before, it's not going to be updated or copied over. So make sure all the information that you provide is correct for next year's event. In the application editor too, this is where you can review your custom questions. Again, just use feedback from artists that you received last time. Maybe the ZAPP team helped you kind of make your application questions more efficient, or maybe there's anything that you need to improve upon from last year's application. Go ahead and review that and make sure that your application is easy for artists to fill out, or that they're clear and straightforward, so that there's no questions that you need to field from artists when they apply for next year's event. So maybe there's key information that you wish you had from artists, maybe things about what they should expect from the event, or I guess what you should expect from their application or their artwork. Some things that you need to collect that you wish you had, you can add those questions in and kind of review what you had last year and see if that works. If it's also been a while since you've updated your application questions, note that we now have the ability to set up questions with conditional logic. I'm not going to go through a full tutorial, but basically what this lets you do is set up questions for certain types of artists, whether you have different questions for artists versus non-artist vendors, or maybe you have questions that are specific to answers to a previous question, then you can use conditional logic to set that up to show or hide depending on their answer to a previous question. So in this particular case, if this is a question asking vendors what they need and not artists, I'll make sure that I enable conditional logic to show this question if they say that whether an artist or vendor is vendor, because that's a question I set up previously. So I'll just make sure that that is enabled so that when they do the actual application, they can, and I can show you on here, let me just refresh it. If they say that they're a vendor, that question I just enabled conditional logic for appears. It's kind of an advanced method of setting up applications, but it really is nice to be able to provide a nice application experience for whoever is applying. And if you have any questions about conditional logic, you can use our Help Center under the application editor guide, or you can contact us if you have any specific questions regarding how to set up your application using conditional logic. All right, and going along with this, our next kind of common mistake that we see, or I say mistake, but I'm really framing it as reminders or tips for next year, is forgetting to review your medium categories. So in the same application editor, take a look at your medium categories and see if anything needs to be changed from last year. Maybe you had an application for jurors or a category, excuse me, for jurors that was just too broad, too large. It ended up being a really long category of art that they had to look at, and it would have been nice to have split that up a little bit more. Maybe you want to instead have different categories for more specific pieces of art. So let's say painting, instead of just doing painting, you could do painting oil versus painting, it'll refresh, painting acrylic. That might not be very helpful in this case, but you get the idea, just separating out categories so that they're a little bit smaller or a little more manageable for jurors to handle once they get the applications to review. So take a look. Maybe there was a category as well that after some, noticing some changes in the art field, there's some art that kind of has its own category. Maybe you want to add that. I know there's kind of a lot of discussion about digital art these days in the category for that. So maybe there's things that you want to specify and have specific categories for. You can make sure you update those here as well. Moving along the editor process, next common mistake is not updating your product costs. So moving along in the product editor, again, take a look at your costs for the products that you have, including the jury fee and all the booth fees and everything else. Make sure that those are updated. I recommend doing it right when you're creating your application, if you know that information already, just so that you don't have to worry to come back and remember to do that after the jury process. It's all ready and set up for artists once they're invited. So come in here and make sure that all of the products are updated to the correct costs. Maybe they have had to been increased or changed at all. You'll want to make sure that those are updated before you forget to do that. Especially because if artists come in, try to pay for something and the information does not match what they thought that the fees were going to be, and if they end up paying for it anyway, we'd have to, address any refunds or address having them paid the wrong amount. So it's pretty important that that is updated. All right, so once all those 4 tabs essentially are updated and ready to go, you'll be ready to submit your publish request. And so the next mistake I have here is don't wait until the last minute to submit your publish request. This is something that's important because a lot of things kind of will depend on when you submit your publish request, whether or not you're going to be able to, be included in certain announcements or things like that. So when you are ready to publish your event, I'm not going to be able to here because I have yet to fill out my jury details page. But when you're ready to come in here, you'll just click publish request or publish event, and that will send a request to the ZAPP team to review your event and make sure everything is ready to go before publishing. So make sure you submit that request ahead of time. We recommend doing it before your accept applications date, meaning before your event actually opens. And that will allow you at least a window so that you can share the information about the event, share your event details page so that artists can review that before the actual application window opens. But just remember that the ZAPP team is only available Monday through Friday to publish events, and we typically get to it within 1 business day, but sometimes we're a little bit busier, and if there's a lot of events we're requesting to publish, you'll want to get that in with plenty of time before your application window opens. We might also have changes for you to make, so leave plenty of time for us to contact you about that if that's the case and make those changes before, going back. So just leave yourself enough time to do that. And like I mentioned before, the event dates and your legal agreement, here's the event dates, and the legal agreement will lock, meaning you won't be able to make any changes to those items after your event is published. So make sure that those are set before you publish. That just makes it so that artists aren't getting information that's changing within the application window. Once you've published your event and you are confident that things are ready to go, there's just a couple other things that I want to remind you of to update to make sure you're the best prepared you can be for next year's event. So along with that comes our next mistake of letting your email templates become outdated. So if you don't use email templates, I'm going to kind of show you what they are, but it allows you to create emails that you just have to plug in when you're ready to actually send your notification of the jury results. So the email templates can be found in the Events Communication tab. Now they're kind of hidden, so I'm going to show you how to find them. When you first have your event on ZAPP for the next year, obviously you won't have any applications to click on to be able to email those statuses, and then therefore you'll see access those email templates. So what I recommend doing is ahead of your application window, coming in here, clicking on your archived event instead. You can click on any of these statuses. It's not going to matter because we're not going to actually send an email. Click select. And instead of, filling out the form, I'm just going to click template, and under templates, I can click edit templates. And this is where we want to be able to edit the templates from last year. So you see I have two templates from, this previous event. One was to invite all the artists and one is to not invite. Again, this template just allows me to write out my notification so that all I have to do when it comes time to notify folks is to come in here and actually use the template in my draft. But right now, what I'm going to do, because it's, ahead of everything, I'm going to just make sure that this template from last year is ready to go for next year. So similarly, I'm going to update, the dates that are in here if there's anything that's outdated. Again, I want to make sure that this email doesn't just repeat itself from last year so that artists who do come back year over year aren't kind of turned off by the fact that, I'm just repeating the same information or at least the same verbiage. But you'll want to make sure the information still is consistent with, what will happen for next year's event. And if you don't know some of the details that artists will need to know if they're invited or not invited, that's okay. You can do this at any point, but I just want to highlight that you can get ahead of it and do it before your application opens. So just, update this one. This one's pretty easy. I'll just, maybe I'll make some changes to the verbiage, but at least making sure everything is updated to the right dates, and I'll save that template. And then I'll come to the invite template and do the same thing and kind of update all the information and make sure that those, are consistent with what will happen next year. So I'll just get ahead of myself and be able to do that here. This is all very demo text, so don't pay attention to what's actually written here, but you'll have your own version. And save that as well. So you can have multiple templates if you want. You can add new ones if you'll have specific, emails going out to artists to, have them confirm their booth purchase or, ask them to submit their booth request, things like that. You can add new templates as soon as you need them. But once those are saved, you can just close out that window. And when you're ready to use them, you'll just load that template into your draft. Again, you would make sure you do it for your current event, not your archived event. But that's how you access those templates if you have yet to submit an application or if you have yet to receive an application for the current event. Our final mistake for this is requesting your marketing add-ons too late. So this is my chance to plug all the marketing options we have available to events so that you can get the word out to ZAPP artists. We have a variety of options nowadays, to let you, share the word, spread the word. To start off, though, I'll talk about what is already included in the ZAPP service, and that is two inclusions in the show information notification. So all shows are guaranteed to be included in this, notification that goes out every week, 2 times. Once when your event first gets published, or once when your accept applications date has been open in the last 10 days, and once when your deadline is up to 10 days out. So you'll see on the right here, we have a screenshot of this notification, and it lists upcoming deadlines, events with upcoming deadlines, and newly listed events. So you'll be able to be included once in each section per application cycle. Inclusion in this is automatic. Once your event is published on ZAPP, then ZAPP will automatically include you in that show information on those specific dates. So you don't have to do anything. It's already kind of included. And all you have to do is make sure that, your event is updated with all the correct information. But if you do want a little bit more of a push for your event specifically, we have a few different options for you. The first is a feature in that show information email. So at the top of this email, we have a feature section or a what's hot section, and events can purchase the feature for themselves once per application cycle. And it's this show information email sent to about 56,000 artists. So this gives you an opportunity to feature your event to these artists. And since it appears at the top of the email if you're featured, and you get a little bit more information, you're given your event summary included as well. It's kind of an extra nod to artists to be able to highlight your event. So it's $100 to be featured in the show information, and you can be featured up to one time. And you can request that as soon as your event is published. We'll then kind of work with you to talk about which date you'll be included in the show information email and have you pay. And then that's basically it. You don't have to do anything else. We'll just activate your event to be featured on this specific Wednesday, since that's sent out on Wednesdays. So that's the show information feature. That one was released or kind of became available around September, October last year. So if you haven't gotten a chance to be featured, definitely consider that for next year's event. And I'll talk about how to request these options as well. But the next option we have is the familiar one, which is the single show e-blast. This option lets you send an e-blast to a targeted list of ZAPP artists with info that's exclusive to your event. So we send single show e-blasts on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And when you purchase an e-blast, you're purchasing one send date to go out to artists, and that describes your event. So related to our common mistake here, single show e-blast can be requested as soon as your event is published, but make sure you request your e-blast a minimum of 10 days before your anticipated send date, or just as soon as you know that you want one. This allows us to have plenty of time to talk about which date your e-blast will go out and have you review the proof and pay for it and all that stuff before it actually goes out. So the e-blast, like I mentioned, targets artists in specific states or regions with specific medium categories. So you can reach up to 45,000 artists or segment the list further based on where they're located and what category they identify with. And that lets you target your e-blast to specific artists. And the price of the e-blast itself is actually determined by the number of artists that you'll end up reaching based on your criteria. I do want to also announce that we have a new design to our e-blast that you'll get an email about next week. But if you can see the photo here, this is the new design for the e-blast. It previously had a little more simple design, and we've updated it now so that, and this is only showing you the top portion of it, but it will address the artist by their first name, include your event summary, your event dates, and all your details are kind of listed out with specific icons. And it actually also includes your social media at the bottom of it if you've included it in your event. So it's just a little bit of a nicer layout. We also now have the option to customize this color of the border as well as the color of the icons. So when you request your e-blast, you can add this custom color to possibly match your branding or match a color in your logo a little bit better. Just to kind of differentiate the e-blast from others, you can have that customized for an additional $25. And then as usual, you can choose to add an additional image to the bottom of the e-blast for $25. And then you can also choose to have a social media post that ZAPP will post out on our channels with your event info. And that's another $25 for that social media post add-on. So if you want an e-blast, definitely request it as soon as you'd like, and we'll get you set up, and you'll be able to target specific artists and let them know about your event and why they should apply. The final marketing add-on that we have is the receipt advertisement. So you can advertise your event on the receipt page that all artists see when they complete a purchase on ZAPP. Here's a screenshot of what it would look like. So after an artist checks out, they then get to their receipt, and then this is where the ads display. So it's a 200 by 200 pixel image that will link directly when they click on it to your event page. So you would create the ad design itself and send it to us to include on this page. But then, we'll just make sure it links to the right place. So you can purchase the receipt ad for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and the pricing is $250 for 2 weeks or $500 for 4 weeks. We just have a max of 4 weeks total that the event can be featured on this page. There's about 17,000 purchases made on ZAPP every month, meaning, this page is being seen 17,000 every month or so. So this is a great place to have some visibility. Again, you'll create the design and we'll put it up during the dates that we agree on when you request those add-ons. So to request any of these marketing options, you'll just go to the Help Center. Then click on Market with ZAPP. It's kind of in the middle at the bottom. You'll get to this page that includes all of the information that I just talked about with these add-ons, and just click on Marketing Request Form. And then just fill out this form for whichever option you want to request. There's going to be some questions specifically for, certain options that has some more information. For example, for eBlast, you can let us know if you want that additional image. And I'll have you upload it. If you want the custom brand color, you can pick the color for your eBlast here and stuff like that. So just fill out the form, and then we will get back to you with a send date that we have available for you, as well as a quote to be able to review before you purchase the eBlast or whatever option that you're requesting. So just make sure you're doing that as well as soon as you know you want one, because our schedule, depending on the time of year, can fill up pretty quickly. So as soon as you are ready for that, go ahead and request that. That is the end of our 8 common mistakes for renewing your application in ZAPP. I hope you learned some good tips or were reminded of anything useful. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope to see you at our next webinar.